On January 17th, the U.S. Embassy invited Chadian students to discuss a famous letter written in 1963 by civil rights activist Martin Luther King. After Americans celebrated Martin Luther King's Day on January 16th in the United States, this important day commemorates the achievements for civil rights of Dr. Martin Luther King, who dedicated his life to the nonviolent struggle for civil rights in the United States. At that time, the southern United States was a very unjust place for Black Americans because white Americans held all of the power. To address this issue, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. organized nonviolent protests against a largely white government that systematically limited the rights of Black citizens through the use of unjust laws. He was arrested by police for organizing these protests, and religious leaders called for him to delay his demonstrations. In response to them, he wrote the text of the 1963 letter from a Birmingham jail and smuggled out the text for its publication. During our discussion at the U.S. Embassy's American Center, we explored passages from Dr. Martin Luther King's original letter, such as, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." Ultimately, Dr. Martin Luther King's political organization built support for civil rights reform. This helped Americans embrace equality through organizing nonviolent marches that eventually compelled the American government to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Voting Rights Act of 1965, and dramatically improve rights for Black Americans. We were honored to have the opportunity to commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy. At the end, we spoke with the U.S. Ambassador, Mr. Alexander Laskaris, to hear his thoughts about the day and the important legacy for social justice and nonviolent social activism that Dr. King bestowed us with.
Hi, the Chat English show. Here we are in the U.S. Embassy again for the next time, and today also we have the chance to meet this great gentleman, and we are invited in a very amazing event, and he will be telling us about the events and the importance of this day. So how are you doing?
Well, very well, thank you. Well, first of all, welcome. It's good to see you again. It's good to see your audience again.
Thank you.
You helped make me famous in Chad, so all sorts of people saw it. So I was very happy. So yesterday in the United States, we celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday, a national holiday. And so we thought what we would do today is invite 30 young Chadians over who are English language students at the Oasis Center in Clermont and ask them to read Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail. So Martin Luther King was arrested in April of 1963 in Birmingham. And while he was arrested, a group of religious leaders sent him a letter telling him to slow down, telling him he was pushing too hard, he was being impatient, and also he was from Georgia and this was Alabama, and he should essentially mind his own business. You know, that's let Alabama solve Alabama's problems, Georgia stay in Georgia. So Martin Luther King, he was in prison, so he wrote a letter on toilet paper to smuggle out of prison. And it's now known as the letter from the Birmingham jail. And it is one of the critical documents of American history, of American democracy. And he says, patience is not a virtue when it comes to the pursuit of justice. He said that the world is interconnected, and an injustice in Alabama needs to be addressed in Georgia, and an injustice in Georgia needs to be addressed anywhere in the world. And he spoke of the need for nonviolent but aggressive, assertive action, and the need to follow the law except when the law itself was the problem. And it's this amazing, eloquent rallying cry to people everywhere to say that we are connected, we are woven together in a common fabric of humanity. And now I've read this letter 100 times. I still get chills when I read it.
How this day will be helping us now, for example? Why are we celebrating this? What is it taken away from?
Well, one of the things that Martin Luther King noted was, his struggle for civil rights in the United States was going on at the same time as the struggle for African liberation. And he said the two are connected.
Right.
And so I think there is a common thread between my country and your country and all the countries of Africa. Now, part of that thread is, of course, a large portion of the American people have their origins in the African continent, and they care deeply about the African continent. But I think on a broader philosophical level, what Dr. King was saying to us was, we're not alone.
Right.
What happens in one country affects another country. What's happened in the United States affects people in Africa, and they should comment on it, they should act on it. What happens today in Ukraine is something that we comment on. So what the church leaders of Alabama were telling Martin Luther King was, mind your own business. Okay. This is Alabama.
Thank you. Mr. Bakker, you got a question?
You have already said everything. Thanks for the invitation. We are really honored. We are happy to attend this great event. What I want to ask is, what is your impression of for those who have participated from different places or from Oasis Center?
Well, first of all, I was completely delighted by their reaction. I thought I was going to have to push these kids and encourage them and sort of, come on, speak. The minute they sat down, I left, I came back, I left, I came back, I left, I came back. And we were supposed to go for an hour. They went for an hour and a half. I could have let them go for another hour. And they sat down at tables with each one with one of my American colleagues. And it was just clear to me that, first of all, their level of English was excellent. I was very delighted by that. But it was clear to me that they got it. They understood. They understood what this meant in my historical context, what this meant for an American in 1963. But I think what it means for a Chadian or a Ukrainian or an Ethiopian or anyone else, any place where basic freedoms are in question or basic rights are in question, anyone can read this and understand immediately what this means. So it's written at a time and a place in American history. It's very much about the American South in 1963. But the power of the language and the power of the morality behind it has elevated this from a specific time and place to the level of the universal in a way that I get moved every time I read it. I've been reading it since I was a kid.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One last question for our followers. Last time they said that you are helping this society so much. You're very active. You're moving from place to this place. So what is the message that you give to our followers and precisely the youth people in Chad? They lost the sense of hope and everything. So
well, first of all, I like Chad. I like Chadians. I've started to travel different parts of the country. I respect Chadians because most Chadians work too hard to feed their families, to educate their children. And for most Chadians, not the V8s, well, just V8, but for most Chadians who are not V8s, life is hard. And I respect that. And I think the goal of all policy, of all politics, has to be to deliver a better life for all Chadians. And I think every single Chadian agrees with me, regardless of their political party, regardless of the north, south, east, or west. But the other thing that strikes me, so I went to the Dari Festival this week at the Palais de Cannes Janvier. By the way, everyone should go to the Dari Festival.
There as well,
first of all, it's just a lot of fun. But I think more importantly, it just tells me that look, there are a lot of problems in Chad. We all know that. But one of the great delights of Chad is you have so many cultures, and you all enjoy each other's cultures. Right. So I saw Northerners dancing with Southerners. I saw people from Abeshe dancing with people from Kanembu. I saw everyone enjoying each other's cultures. And I think the same thing applies for religions. Right. I think Chadians respect each other's religious backgrounds as much as they respect their national cultures. So look, I'm an optimist. I represent an optimistic people. There are challenges ahead, and they're not easy. But I think there are enough Chadians of goodwill that we could make progress.
Thank you very much for this amazing message. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Keep commenting and sharing this video so that it's going to be reaching a lot of people around this world, so that it can shaping them and mold them in their daily life. So thank you for inviting us again, and it's an honor to be part of this.
We'll do it again.
Thank you very much. Guys, see you.
When I read this letter, I would feel so sorry at that time. But today I'm so happy when I see that the white and the black people are gathering together at the same society, and they're sharing foods and drinks and administrations, everything. So I'm so glad and I'm so happy for what he done. He is a very good man, and he is a hero. Thank you very much.
What I learned about Martin Luther King was many today. I know him before because I studied about him. So when I was in my school, they told me that he was for peace, for no violence, and so. But I still have some question because he was in the jail when he wrote his letter. And thank you, Teacher Mark, answer to my question. I said, who give him pain to write? Because in the jail, they don't allow to people to go with something. Maybe they will kill themselves, like to allow to come here. They take all our phones and our bags. So who give him pain and to write down? So if I ask someone, they will say, how stupid question is this? He write down and so. But today
I've read something along the lines of some kids, if they ask you why it's not working, why I don't have the right to go this and there, you don't have an answer. You can explain to them that only because of your color, you don't have right to go this place on that place. And Mr. Bernard has explained to us a very fantastic point where he has experienced it. At that time, he was 5 years old, so he has experienced some stuff that he cannot eat in the canteen, so he has to go back to eat and everything. And when I hear that, it behooves me to say thanks God that Martin Luther King was there and did a great job right there.
This is very wise and courageous for Martin Luther King to write a kind of letter in prison when he was in prison. So when I was in college, I didn't know much about Martin Luther King. I just know his famous situation by his saying, "I have a dream."
About the text, so we learn two things. One is freedom, and the next is justice. So here we saw that black community, they need freedom. And for the things they had been struggling with got the freedom, because they start to walk, but they stumble block, they try, they stumble block. So Martin Luther King, the leader of black community, they say to his people, we have to say no, we have to stop with this. This is not right.
We have to learn from those statements, and from his statement, we have to learn, and we have to show to the others in this example, and we have to follow to others, and we have to show them that if there is a segregation, if there is a racism in every single country around the world, we have to fight and we have to solve these problems by taking some actions.
Martin Luther King is the great leader, is an example for many people in his time and even now. He stood up against segregation. He showed to the whole world that we can live together by his famous speech, which is, "I have a dream." He showed to the whole world that all of the people can live together, whether you are black or white.
Like just one sentence, he has mentioned the world loves. So I like this word, and we have to love each other. If we have apply or what Martin Luther King just said, we have to have love each other. So how to have love? The solution is, for my thinking, from my point of view, everyone have to learn English. The English speakers are lovely, Yeah, because I was with the Arabic speaker, French speaker, but English speaker, they are so welcoming people, so lovely. First of all, I start with the teacher. Thank you very much.
But the last two interventions were exactly what I was thinking in my mind. If we have to adopt Martin Luther King's situation in our country, I would speak about love. Yeah, whether you are from the north or from the south, the Chadian blood runs through our vein, and we should start to love one another, stay connected for a better season. So when the two of you spoke, I was like, wow, this is a connection, and I just want to speak my mind out there. Thank you so much.
my biggest takeaway is that these words still hold true to conflicts that are happening now, and the words are somewhat timeless. So the lessons are therefore timeless. So even though these events occurred 40, 50 years ago, we can still take and utilize and move forward.
From my perspective, it's something that you have to work on daily. When you read this, none of this comes easy. It always takes work, it takes effort to keep things going, because without momentum, things reverse. And so the momentum has to keep going. The momentum is what Martin talks about, is advocate for, is love, right? When you learn to love other people and you can see the humanity in them, that is where it has to go. And we have to keep momentum going, whatever the differences are.
Our ability to place them in the context in which we live now provides not only a good history lesson and a way for us to understand where we've come as a country, but to Bernard's point, to continually re-examine the sources of why we have some of the challenges we do as a country, and to lean on the lessons that MLK provided for all of us. So.
Our group talked a lot about nonviolence as the way to achieve change, and how it takes more patience and love and organization, but how it was effective for Martin Luther King, how he was able to achieve his dream with the Civil Rights Act, and even though he suffered and was assassinated, he did the right thing with the nonviolent direct action.
I have to apologize because I only gave you about half of the letter. I thought it was too long, and first of all, I underestimated your command of English. So this is like cutting Shakespeare, which is a crime. But I thought I'd maybe make it a little easier. But no, I should have given you the whole letter. So I encourage you to go online to find the whole letter. Continue to read it. Because, one of the things Martin Luther King talked about was the interconnectedness of humanity.